It's as if someone controlling the force doesn't want us having this conversation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to a BTB short, the state of Star Wars, where some self-professed Star Wars nerds talk about, you guessed it, Star Wars. My name is Matt Smith. I'm joined here by Brian Larson,
Hello.
Aaron Lashbrook,
Either.
and Brad Riverdal.
Hello there.
We are part of the SPDM Podcasting Network. You can check out our main cast, the BTB Movie Club, along with other great podcasts, wherever you listen and download your podcasts. And we're back. Somehow we've returned. We don't know how. Somehow we've returned.
Cloning,
If
cloning.
if you listen to episode 6, you heard me say we were all done and that was it, and we lied. We just lied to you, and here you go. So, we're back for episode 7 or bonus episode or whatever we decide to call this. And actually, I believe Mr. Brian Larson, you're gonna kind of run the show here. It's this is your idea, so take it away, Mr. Brian Larson.
One of the things that I like about our group is that I'm the least knowledgeable of the Star Wars stuff. Brad, very knowledgeable, Aaron, very knowledgeable, Matt, knowledgeable. And I've got questions that came up after listening to the podcast. And there were times where I was like, oh, I wish I would have said this, or um, just stuff that bugs me that I figure with these experts, these genius Star Wars minds, that we can get to it. And then, maybe even digest a few crazy fan theories that are out there and entertain some people. So I just throw this one out there. One of them I'm going to hold on till near the end.
Okay.
It was an idea that just kind of hit me, and I was like, maybe I'm right on this. Maybe I had an epiphany. I'll save that one for a while. But
Okay.
um,
Ominous.
one one thing that's bugged me is Sifo and creating the clones. So I've never understood why Sifo went and had the clones created, why he would um, keep it a secret, and then and we'll start with that. What would be the purpose of Sifo going to uh, Camino and starting the clone army?
Um, I so if I recall correctly, I think they tried to explain this away in a comic book. Brad, maybe I don't know if you know the answer to that or a
I
no.
didn't read that comic book, but I had always assumed, and my Attack of the Clones. That's the one that haven't seen Attack of the Clones the most, although I do enjoy it. But wasn't that like a rogue Jedi?
So from what I understand, he was a little rogue and he also had the gift of foresight. And I could be talking out of my rear end here, so if anybody's listening and yelling at your device, great. I'm glad you're listening. But but he had this gift of foresight, and he, for some reason, knew he had to do this. But he was rogue. He does show up in an episode of one of the animated series. Does anybody remember? Is it Rebels
I
or
am
no?
currently watching the Clone Wars, and I'm on season 6, and they were just dealing with the that's the one where it starts with them dealing with the clones, and the one clone Tup kills one of the Jedis, his
Yeah.
chip's going bad. And they mentioned Sifo, but they did not show him that I recall.
Okay. I think he actually shows up as a force ghost or a forced vision somewhere in there. Maybe it's later. But that's what I seem to recall without typing anything into my Google machine here. I believe it was he was rogue, but he had the gift of foresight, um, which some would argue that vision was maybe forced upon him somehow. No pun intended, but that's what I seem to be thinking right now when you mention that name.
So you're
Yeah,
thinking, oh, go ahead, Brad.
I thought he was working with Palpatine. Um, but I mean, I don't know, or he was. I don't know how the timeline would match up with that, but it seems like it was done in secret because they didn't want the Jedi to know about the fact that they were building this giant army for them. Because the plan would be hatched. Who knows? Maybe Palpatine put it in his mind. I'm really not sure. I'm completely talking on my Wookiee as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Aaron, you got anything for me on this?
Yeah. Just, and I don't know where I have this from. It's just one of those things. It was kind of like as a kid, it's like, oh yeah, Anakin burned up in a volcano. It's just, it's what you heard. You didn't know where you heard it, but everybody said it. Um, I'm gonna say 99.9% was from one of my kids. Um, that I would usually, I've got no qualms about taking what they say is correct. But without knowing many details, I thought, and kind of what Brad's saying, um, not necessarily that he was working with Palpatine, but I thought he was being manipulated by Dooku on behalf of Palpatine, and then Dooku kills him because Dooku doesn't want his fingerprints on it. And that's what I've always thought was I don't know who gave the order, and I don't know the rhyme or reason or any of the story behind it, but I always thought he was kind of tricked into it by Dooku, thinking I don't know if he was going to be a separatist with him, if he was disillusioned with the order, and just thought he subscribed to Dooku's pamphlet, and just told him, this would be a good idea. I think we should do this. Yeah, you're right. And then as soon as he got the ball rolling, Dooku, ended him because that's what you do, so there's no trails back. But I don't know why I've thought that for years.
I
I think
did.
go
Oh,
ahead,
go ahead,
sorry.
man.
I
No,
was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say I think you're on the right track there too. I think and I'll admit I just typed something in just 'cause I wanted to verify what I was saying. It was done in secret because he didn't want the council to know. He
Yeah,
had
and
been
who's bankrolling it?
he had
Was
been
it the Separatists?
he had been kicked off the council for even suggesting this is what I've that does match with what I think happened like sort of in the TV background knowledge, but go ahead, Brian.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that I believe Sifo Dyas was Dooku's Padawan. So there was a connection between the two of them. Um, and yeah, but if he gets kicked off the council and then still does it, like Brad said, they need credits because they had a whole episode in the cartoon about having to budget more and having it get passed that they needed to spend more money and they didn't want to. And then it ended up where they, you know, blew something up and made 5 million more clones. So there's got to be the money there. But I do like the idea of Palpatine putting the idea in his head, like you were saying, Matt, if he does have that future
Mhm.
force per se. I think Dave Filoni would be pissed if I called it Future Force, or Leland Shee. Um, but yeah, it was just it's been something that it was like it seemed like in the movie it was just like, oh, Master Sifo Dyas ordered him. Who? And it was just and it never went anywhere. And then it was like, well, why would Sifo Dyas? Because he was murdered by the Pikes on the order of Dooku, like you said, Aaron. Trailer,
I always thought it was like Dooku himself who did it. That's how I've always pictured it. Like I said, I don't know why I think that, but
uh, but yeah, um, it was just been one of the things that it's like, okay, these guys tell so many good stories and tie so much together. This one's a pretty big gaping hole for me. And then why, since they killed him, all of a sudden Dooku's now, because it would have been Dooku who put the chip in with Order 66. It wouldn't have been Sifo Dyas, wouldn't have been like, hey. And they dealt with that and recently in the cartoon that I just watched, where the chip went bad on top, and they immediately called Dooku, and but they did, they called him Lord Tyrannus, and
Hmm.
they were talking to him about, hey, this is going on, what do we do? And then they hatched the whole plan to cover it all up. So I think piecing it together, I feel a little bit better. So thank you guys. I
Is this
appreciate
one of
that.
the rare things in Star Wars where maybe they meant to leave it a bit of a mystery? Because I'll point something out. I don't know of a Sifo Dyas action figure. They don't let those things slide,
Huh?
even if you never saw the character on screen, they'll make an action figure out of it. So maybe it's like one of those meant to be a bit of a mystery. I don't know.
And
Well,
depending on where you are in Clone Wars, it looks like season 6, episodes 10, 11, and 13, he will show up. So I don't know if you've made it that
okay.
far. Right.
No, I'm at, I believe, episode 4 of season
Okay.
6.
So it looks like he'll show up as a hologram somehow. So
Okay.
maybe a recording or something.
How long ago was that, Brian? Like that season? It's been
2014.
okay. So yeah, I mean, God, it's
The
been a
only reason
long
I know
time.
that is the only reason I know it so clearly is I finished season 5 and I was like, okay, I think I'm supposed to start Rebels now because I'm watching it as it got put out in real life, not the one series Matt tried, the timeline one that you sent out to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm watching it in like real life. And so I wanted to make sure, should I start season 6 or Rebel season 1? And May or March 2014 is when Clone Wars season 6 came out. September is when Rebels came out.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a long time.
yeah,
Well,
I
all the
actually
animated stuff is going to be my weak point anyway. um, so what is the last season of Clone Wars? 7 or 8?
7.
And it was years later, right? There's
Correct.
years in
What
between 6 and 7.
wasn't that the lost episodes or something, or was that 8? Because there was
Ooh.
something they did where it ended, and then they put out like on DVD at the time, it was like the lost episodes, and now they've made that the next season, and then they restarted it because they felt like they hadn't told enough stories about the clones. So like they made another season if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was like a huge gap. It just kept going and going.
Yeah, because I was never watching Clone Wars or Rebels. And then this last season came out a couple years ago, and my kids gave me a list of like, skip the first 2 seasons, watch this, they gave me like seasons and episodes that, you got to watch this because we're all going to watch this last season when it comes out together. And we did, and it was awesome. But they're like, you're going to need this, you're going to need this. It was, kind of like when the guy who plays the Punisher tells the story about going into a comic book shop. And he has a whole stack of stuff, and they're like,
Oh
get
yeah,
rid of
John
all this.
Barenthal.
You need this one, you need this one. Go get that one over there. So that's exactly what my kids did for me.
Yeah, Clone Wars was 2014, the season 6, and then season 7 came out in 2020. And it was like a 13, 14 episode season. That would probably be the lost ones. And that's the ending ones are the Ahsoka and Darth Maul fighting, and Darth Vader
Yeah.
shows up at the end.
I don't know if they
So,
still do it, but Disney Plus for a while there, and they may still have it on there. They like curated because they realized it was such a huge undertaking to do what you're doing right now and watch all of it. But like there was like the Ahsoka Tano timeline, and like they picked out like
oh,
here's like a couple episodes from season 1, here's a couple of, and then there was like the Darth Maul timeline where it's like here's the story of when Darth Maul comes back, and spoiler alert and all that stuff. Um, I don't know if they still
That's
do
a good
that, but it was pretty
idea.
cool. Yeah, it was neat because I remember watch before Rise of Skywalker came out. I think I told you guys before I did this crazy thing where I was like, I'm gonna watch every single Star Wars thing in continuity order, including the holiday special, including the Ewoks cartoon, all this stuff. And I got to Clone Wars, and I was like, yeah, I have a life and a job, and I can't do this. So I ended up watching one of those like curated things with Ahsoka. I think it was like 10 episodes or something. I was like, good enough. Moving on.
well, again, appreciate the conversation on that one. Another one that this is a crazy fan theory that I found, like the theory that Brad and Aaron are the same person, is that Sifo Dyas and Qui-Gon Jinn are actually the same person because they were both Padawans of Count Dooku, and everybody considers Qui-Gon, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Qui-Gon is considered to be a gray Jedi who kind of did his own thing when it came to Anakin. And uh, so is there a possibility that Sifo-Dyas, Count Dooku, faked his death and he came back as Qui-Gon Jinn?
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, but unfortunately, the aforementioned episodes of the Clone Wars kind of bunk that, right? Because he kind of shows up. Yoda would know.
Right.
So, spoiler alert, Yoda is the one who sees the hologram, I think, or the vision or something. So,
Yes.
it's
And
interesting.
it was,
Mhm.
there's some of these fan theories are just stop,
Yeah,
please.
right.
Some of the interesting ones I like were the ones that like after the movie came out and they're like, we think Rey's a Palpatine. No shit.
Yeah.
Yay.
So Star Wars fan theories are like baseball's hot stove. It's like they just come up with these ridiculous, like they're gonna trade so and so. It's like, no, they're not. You're just making up stuff. What are you doing? Fun to think about sometimes, though, I guess.
Now, for the whole like Qui-Gon being a gray Jedi, um, to me, he's always been more Jedi than most Jedi. Like to the point where he thought the council had flaws, and he was all about the will of the Force and not really being a military arm of the Senate. So I see him as like personally, I've never thought of him as a great Jedi, but if
I
you
Yeah,
say
he just
others
didn't
do,
fall in line, right?
right.
right?
So by the council standards, he's a gray Jedi, right? Like he's not one of their guys who does everything they say, and
Okay,
that's how I always seen it. Gray Jedi, I guess you could describe that a couple different ways, but I always saw him as like because he didn't fall in line, like
be more along the lines of Ahsoka then, the way you're going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Ahsoka. Well, I guess we'll find out. There's another season coming, but I feel
Hmm.
like she was a more of a gray Jedi because she actually like left and said, "Screw you guys, I'm taking my
Right.
lightsabers and going home." Um, to the
Screw you
point where
guys.
she,
Going
yeah, to the point where she even, I mean, I don't know the exact phrasing, but I mean, she discolored her lightsabers back to white because she
Hmm.
didn't, it's like that seems pretty serious.
So, since Brian brought up fan theories, has anybody had any really good fan theories that they've come up with that have come true, or ones that you thought were really good and they went in a completely different direction?
I do. Michael Jordan didn't retire. He was suspended for gambling.
That is a very common fan theory.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very common. That is a very
uh,
common Chicago fan theory too.
I have not put out personally. I do not have a fan theory. Hell, I didn't even know Sifo-Dyas was real. So,
Well, if it makes you feel any better, supposedly Sifo-Dyas came about because of a typo in a script. So,
Really
yeah,
it was supposed to say
interesting.
Sidious, and it
it was
went to
supposed to
say.
say Sidious, but with like a dash in between, like a clever pseudonym for Palpatine.
So, like, his name is Sid. Eat us.
Yes. Like Savage Opress,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Who
gosh.
is this Sid Esquire?
And somebody like typoed it, like retyped it wrong. And so then George Lucas is like, "Oh, I'll give you the backstory in episode 3," and then never did. So, which sorry, I don't mean to get off your topic here, Brian, but
You're fine.
like it that's I kind of like sometimes when, and we've talked about this in the big movie group too. Like sometimes it's okay just to have that hanging out there. Like it's okay to have a little mystery in the universe. We don't Star Wars fans are terrible about this. We don't need every single little thing explained. Like it's
No.
okay to have some mystery and ambiguity, sorry, excuse me, in the universe of Star Wars. Like we don't who cares? Like I get why you care. I shouldn't say who cares, but like it's okay.
Best example for me is Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett was so much cooler before it was like, hey Dad, no way's here.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I don't want to see Boba Fett as a little kid, or I don't know.
Okay, I love
It's
what's happening, and you've all fallen right into my trap
Oh no.
of, well, no, because we're talking about Camino, we're talking about Boba Fett, we're talking about. So when episode one came out, I had a fan theory that I believe I came up with. Um, and it would have completely changed everything. Like nothing we know about, there'd be, my fan theory was when we met Anakin, he had some buddies that were his age, and Kitster, the one that was wearing blue, dark complected, I believed he was. I was like, that's going to be Boba Fett. He's going to grow up. I mean, his ship is Slave One. He was a slave. Somehow he got freed. I thought maybe Anakin came back and freed him. And the whole thing was like, who else from the original trilogy can like talk to Darth Vader? He's no good to me. Dead. Who? Nobody else says that. He chokes him. He kills him. I'm like, and I was like, I would have bet a house payment on it. I was like, I got this figured out, and then they went a totally different way. I couldn't have been more wrong, but I was so
I
excited about that when I
I
figured
will
it out.
say that Aaron 100% had that theory after watching the movie, and we had discussions, and he threw that one out. I forgot about that. Your kit and the Slave One. The ship was like, that's the hook. His ship's called
Right.
Slave One. He's got to be. It was like, oh, okay.
Well, and the
Here,
fact he talked to him like they were friends. Like,
uh, two things. One, there's actually crazy fan theories that for a while that Boba Fett was actually Shmi Skywalker.
Wow.
That
Interesting.
one that was like no, but the other one they're saying is the reason Darth Vader used Boba Fett so much and let him get away with it was because it reminded him of Rex.
Hmm.
So I'm not.
yeah, but that would be after the whole Camino thing, and that he was a clone, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, I mean that makes total sense now. Like in the current storyline, yeah, yeah, I like that.
Uh, Another one is that Palpatine, who learned things from Plagueis, used Padme's life force to save Anakin.
I've
I've
heard that. I got no
yep.
problem with it.
Yeah, that works.
I thought,
It
That works.
it explains the we don't know what's wrong with her. She's just
Oh,
She
dying.
she died of sadness.
yeah,
she has lost the will to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Even though she just had two children. And
right.
as every mother knows, there's nothing to live for after that.
Well, I remember the whole Darth Maul one too, where it was like Darth Maul is really not dead, and sure enough, that they made that true eventually.
Right. Another one, and I don't think I was unique to this, because there had been the Knights of Ren before the sequel trilogy. So, I mean, I thought it was a no-brainer that Rey and Ren, were going to be twins, you know, and there was going to work, and they were going to be brother sister, and totally wrong on that, but and then the Knights of Ren, were his.
There's some good Knights of Ren material in the newish comics. Can't remember which one now, but they kind of go back in time a little, not back in time, but they have like flashback scenes and they show some Knights of Ren, like original Knights of Ren stuff. It's very interesting. I said all that without actually having like an issue or a title to give you, but I can do some research, but I remember reading it.
I ordered something from Disney store last right before Christmas, and they shipped me the wrong thing, and it was the same size box. I ordered the crystals that you can make with the lightsabers down the Galaxy's Edge. They sold this like special thing that was like all the different color crystals for like they were getting rid of all of them. So I ordered it anyways. They shipped me the Ren lightsaber. I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, what is this? Like, I opened it up and I was just like, come on, man. And it was like $50 difference in price. It was a whole big deal. But anyways, it came with a comic. Maybe that comic that you're talking about, and it's really cool. It described like the whole order of the Ren and how they came about, and then how they Kylo kind of became the de facto leader and stuff. I think there was a lot of territory to cover with that. Um, if they wanted to. I mean, I think they're shying away from sequel trilogy stuff for the most part, so I don't know if they'll get to it, but I was shocked that they made a Ren lightsaber, and it shows up in one comic. It's like some comic or lightsaber hilt that he builds, and it looks like super evil, and there's like the whole backstory about it. Um, yeah, there was all kinds of theories about the Knights of Ren, and then they did next to nothing with them.
I know, and
Like,
like for me, that's like right up my alley. Helmets. I mean, there
hmm
was so much there that I would have just, shelled out money for a decade.
and they made the one action figure and called it Knight of Ren, which I thought
Yeah.
was kind of funny. You're only getting one, and he's the Knight of Ren. It's like I want all five. Come on, or however many there were.
Now, here's an example of maybe not the strongest writing in episode 4. Did they really try and hide Luke that hard? He went by Skywalker. He's with his aunt and uncle. He's on Tatooine, and Ben's there. I mean, if Anakin really tried at all, he could have found him.
Yeah, if Darth Vader is like, if he's aboard an Imperial ship and they get kind of close to Tatooine, he would be like, let's go down there. I feel something's going on down there. Let's go check it out.
Well, and there's all sorts of theories about that too, right? I've heard the one where Skywalker's like Smith in the galaxy, like it's just a common name on that area. And then I've also heard the Darth Vader would never go back to Tatooine, right? Because he hates it so much, even though he does in Obi-Wan. But anyway, um, they've always tried to explain that away a little bit too, like they hid Leia so well.
Yeah.
Why didn't they try to do that with Luke?
Well, they probably knew how much Anakin hated sand, and there's no way he's coming
No
anywhere near
way.
here again.
He hates it here. He's never going
It's
to come
so
back.
coarse.
Oh, is it his PTSD? No, the sand.
Yep.
It does get everywhere. I mean, you're tracking it around for days.
Imagine getting
But
in that suit.
I had heard the same thing. Well, all right, so that brings up the theory and the hole in the theory. So I've heard that wouldn't go back to Tatooine because there's so much pain and anguish, and just he'd never go there, and even his judgment's clouded, and his feelings aren't clear when he gets near it or even thinks about it. But the opposite, or the thing that kind of pokes the holes in it, is in the last, I don't know, 5 years, maybe decade, um, that his suit is intentionally painful to keep him in agony, to keep him, in touch with the dark side, and that's why his castle's where it's at, and all. So it's like, well, you can't use pain and agony to keep him away, and then use pain and agony to make him strong, because then he
Right.
would just live on Tatooine and be the, you know, psycho killer.
The comic I was referencing was Crimson Reign. It was a limited series about Kira from Solo,
Oh, cool.
and the Knights of Ren show up in there a couple times. So that's
Interesting.
just for reference.
And the ending of Solo isn't Darth Maul. He talks about Black Sun, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was like the Marvel Universe little teaser at the end, and then Solo bombs, so they'll never do that probably. But
It wasn't Crimson Dawn.
Is that
I
from
don't
a
know.
different
That's why I'm asking.
franchise? There is a
We
Crimson Dawn.
Well, we had this. What's funny? I
That's
think we had this conversation on on a previous episode too, because there's like three
well,
different
Crimson
organizations.
Dawn's Tropic Thunder, isn't it? We are Crimson Dawn.
See, that's a
Um, so okay, this was the question that came to my mind that started me wanting to talk with you guys. Does Dooku know that Palpatine is Darth Sidious?
100%.
Who? Dooku?
Yeah, Lord Tyrannus, Count Dooku know that Palpatine is Darth Sidious?
I'd have to say yes.
Brad?
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't
What
think he
I
does.
so okay, this
Really?
is what I need.
Okay.
Give us something to
This
work
is
with
where
here.
I'm okay.
Okay.
So I started watching the early episodes of the cartoon, and it was just something. It was like whenever he talked to him, he was always hooded. He didn't come across. He didn't speak as Palpatine. It was always the voice. So it was just. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. Then I'm thinking, going back to Revenge of the Sith when he kills him. It's like at one point they've captured Palpatine and they create this idea or the plan. Sidious says capture Palpatine. Wait a minute, it's like he didn't just say, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in this chair and we're blah blah blah. He got orders to capture himself. He gave orders to capture himself, but he didn't use his own. It was this, and then the shocked as hell look on his face, Dooku, when he was like, "Okay, kill him." If I'm Dooku, I'm like, "That's the Emperor." I mean, you reveal the secret before you can die. So I just I've got a gut feeling that Dooku never knew that Palpatine was Darth Sidious, who eventually becomes the Emperor.
Interesting.
I disagree. I just think Dooku knew what was going on the whole time. Um, yes, he didn't want so like his eyes didn't turn yellow. Um, and from what I've heard or seen or read, that's because he didn't embrace the dark side of the Force for um, evil and hatred, and he embraced it because he thought it was a better way to rule. It was more natural, not necessarily the twisted parts of it, but having a kind of what Anakin when he started going down the slippery slope, you know, wouldn't it just be easier if there was a person who made the rules and we didn't have to dance around the Senate so much? And I think he kind of went along in his life of privilege. Um, I think he saw that as, hey, let's just let one or two really smart, powerful people just make the rules and it'll be better for everybody. Because then Sidious won't have to kill a bunch of people, and he will at the start, just to get everybody in line. But once everybody's in line, the machine, will run perfectly. Um, but no, I think him playing the separatists, um, him, on that ship when you brought up that Sidious, when he's not Sidious, he's Chancellor. The Chancellor had to, because at that time, all right, so now I want to make sure I don't misspeak. He wasn't Supreme Chancellor yet, was he?
He was not.
Or was he? So the kidnapping helped say the separatists were, this is the last straw. We need, you got to grant me these powers, or somebody's got to be in charge because we're at war now because they kidnapped me and I barely got away thanks to my good buddy Anakin here.
I mean, he was technically the chancellor, but he wasn't just
The
like,
supreme,
yeah.
So
that wasn't until after he got Mace Windu messed him up, right? That was his next speech.
mhm. So prior to that, Dooku
Yeah.
is on Geonosis when Obi-Wan comes and does his little sneaky sneaky,
Yep.
and he captures him. Doesn't he talk about a Sith Lord?
Yes.
Does anybody remember? Does he?
Yeah.
Yep.
That would make me think he knows.
And he's
But
his right hand man.
but he
I just
knows
I don't
he knows him as Darth
Sidious.
Sidious. He doesn't
Okay.
know that
Okay.
Palpatine is Darth Sidious.
I got you.
That's what I'm going with.
It's an interesting question. I mean,
So
maybe
as
we'll never know, but
as strong as he is, as strong as Dooku is with the Force, Sidious is so much more powerful that even face to face he can mask his ability.
Yoda, he masked him from
yeah,
Yoda himself
master
from
from
Yoda.
the whole
Yeah,
the whole crew, right? It's
That's
possible. I was trying to
this.
remember the one of the short recent animated, and you see a lot of Count Dooku, which I loved. I love those
Mhm.
Count Dooku stories. Kind of makes him, I don't know if that's what they were going for. It kind of makes him almost a sympathetic figure. Like you're almost sympathetic. But when he kills Yaddle, spoiler alert, sorry. Um, if you wondered what happened to Yaddle, everyone,
Poor Yaddle. We don't know what happened to Kitster, but we know what happened to Yaddle.
that's right. He's talking to Sidious. I can't remember I'll have to go back and watch it. I don't remember what they were talking about. I just remember Yaddle shows up and he kills her or it or whatever.
Well, and doesn't that you were talking about the scene like he talks up to Obi-Wan on Geonosis? Doesn't he
Yeah,
kind of lay out the plan?
I'm
Yeah,
trying to
but
find
to
it, and I thought I
Brian's
sent it to you guys.
but to
Yeah,
Brian's
he's like,
point, he never says Palpatine is the Sith Lord, right?
Right.
He
He's
just
not
says,
about.
but
Yeah.
he says like, the Senate is controlled by the Sith or
yeah.
something to that effect, and he's Obi-Wan's like, what? So that to me that tells me that he knows he's not going to let him in on every single detail. I'm sure he's aware of the rule of two, that like there can only be two. So you're Count Dooku, you're looking in the mirror, you're like, I'm getting up in age. I'm pretty sure he wants a new apprentice at some point. Like it wouldn't be a total shock, but yeah, I don't know definitively, but that's my take on it.
And I appreciate your guys' opinion. I wanted to have a discussion.
I thought for
Uh,
sure you were going with it's okay to be wrong. I thought you were gonna go.
well, I'm trying to grow as a human. So eh, I was going to get there too, but
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I stole your thunder.
so just to insult everyone, um, is there any way that Ray could be the chosen one? I feel like Aaron could, if he could slap me right now, he would for saying that.
That's one
Okay,
thing.
I'm joking about Ray being the chosen one, but the argument
Oh,
is it Luke
she
or is it
is.
Anakin?
I still
I
think
mean, she,
I still think it's Anakin.
It was Anakin.
yeah, because he ended up doing the right thing in the end.
It,
Now,
it was the one and only time Obi-Wan was wrong about anything.
the in some of the arguments that I've read and kind of it's like it was talking all about balance. So of the hundreds of younglings that he killed and just I mean the scales, all that evil by just killing the emperor that makes this that balance the scales. That brings the balance to the force.
Well, if you think about it that way, if you were talking about like maybe the Jedi, there was so many Jedi, it was like Jedi heavy, and that was his original mandate was to get rid of some Jedi to even the balances.
Yeah,
So
there's so many Jedi, we got to get rid of some. Now
Yeah,
read them.
nature isn't always kind, right?
Right.
Well,
It's like
and
we had a food shortage. Maybe that hurricane that knocked out half the people in the town isn't such a bad thing. But
Well, those were the theories and such that I wanted to talk about. So I appreciate your guys' time. And if you guys have anything more to talk about, we got some time.
so I'm just gonna throw this out there since we recorded our first 6 episodes well before Andor and some of the D or not D23. What do they call it? Star Wars Celebration. If anybody has anything to toss out there about that. Spoilers ahead, everybody.
Maul. Can't wait for Maul.
That looks good.
yeah,
I had not listened to the pods that I wasn't there for.
Whatever. Same thing.
Nobody said anything about when I told my story about Andor, and me and my boys thought it ended 3 episodes too
Oh,
soon.
yeah.
It's the exact same thing that happened to Brian.
Yes.
And I didn't know Brian had told that story until like 3 days ago. I thought that was hilarious that you were like, they keep talking about once they get out of the prison, it's really good. And I was like, what prison?
Yeah, Andor, I guess since Andor has concluded now as we're recording this, I'm quite happy at how well received that show was. Like, uh, I, I haven't met, it almost got to the point where people are like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about how good Andor is, or like how good it was. Like, it went from incredibly negative feedback from some of the previous series, to Indoor's the best thing. I mean, they're talking about like it could win, actual awards other than special effects and like sound design and stuff like that. So I'm really, they've got to be, I would think folks in Disney and Lucasfilm are like encouraged by the fact that like, oh, maybe we can tell adult Star Wars stories and this is gonna pay off, creatively and financially. And I know at least three people who like subscribed to Disney Plus because they heard so many good things about Andor, and they're like, "Oh, I gotta check that out." Um, I mean, that's I guess follow up from the series ending.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I I might have hyped it up too much for myself. Andor season two, I actually was really a little like ugh in the beginning. Like it was kind of slow. I realized they were doing arcs and stuff, but then man, those last six, I mean, they really hit you with it, you know. And then it makes you in my opinion, I shouldn't say for anybody else, but for my opinion, really made those first six or however, right? There was 12.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
like it kind of made it you go back and go, oh, I see the slow burn. And I think um uh, just my opinion, but hot take, I think Luthen one of the best new characters they've come up with ever.
100%.
He just
Yeah.
what a great figure in his. I mean, he gave the speech in I think that was season one where he gave the big speech about what do I sacrifice or whatever.
Yeah.
But then just how he handles himself in season two, I think he's a great character. Love to get. I'm sure there's a comic or a book or something out there that we can look at for backstory, but that'd be great to get some more info on him.
We have a whole new appreciation for Mon Mothma. Who had that? Who had that on their bingo card in 1983?
Right.
You know.
No, that was our good friend Mike Hilty, who he has another podcast on the spdmcrew.com, and it's called Geeks Speak Louder Than Word, or Geeks Speak Louder Than Nerds, and they broke down Andor in each of the three episodes, and I was listening to it, and obviously they came out after the episodes ran, and they went on about how Bix just disappeared, and that's just stupid, and why. And I was just like, God, that's going to make the ending so much better for you guys when you finally get to it.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
when you think Bix is just done and gone, and it's like,
Hmm.
hey, they're they got a surprise coming for you. And again,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, Andor Jr., he's
Yep.
coming.
A couple things that came from that. Everybody, or I've seen multiple times and totally agree with it. It actually makes Rogue One, the ending of Rogue One, even sadder,
Yeah.
even better, even whatever you want to call
Yep.
it. Um, and between those two seasons of Andor, I mean, the character development, we've never seen anything like it in Star Wars. I mean,
Hmm.
just, you know, and it's not just one character. Even, I want to say we don't really see any character development, but you see some, cool stuff by Krennic. Um, but I didn't know that how little I've done with the cartoons, and Brian, you might not be there yet. I'm not even sure if it's in Rebels or Clone Wars, but they talk about the massacre on Gorn,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and they never really talk, and like this just totally fleshes it out, and gives everybody a background and a reason, and I thought just stuff like that, a throwaway line in an episode of a cartoon
Right.
years before ends up being a major plot point.
Well,
Yep.
some people say that same thing about the Clone Wars, though, right? A
Yeah.
single line in A New Hope about I fought with your father in the Clone Wars, and all of a sudden you have this huge backstory. The fact that they executed it really well is impressive.
I'm going to throw out my own prediction, crazy fan theory. They're going to take that one line now that Mon Mothma has this new, like, profound, everybody likes her character and the actress and stuff. They're going to take that many Bothans died to get us this information. Return of the Jedi, new series. It's going to be all about the Bothans and like how they got.
The Bothan spies.
It'll be like Rogue 2, you
Well,
know.
it was so funny to watch the internet go crazy. They're like, "Well, what about the Bothans? What about that was a totally different Death Star, you
Yep.
idiot. Have you ever watched Star Wars ever? Like it's the next one. What are you talking about?"
So
Like,
my son brought up a good this a little bit of a segue. He was playing they just finished Fortnite, did this whole like Star Wars campaign, and like he got like for the first time, I think I told you guys before, he got actually got him into Star Wars. God bless the folks at Fortnite. And
wow.
so he's watching like YouTube clips of stuff from New Hope and all this, and like you watch the remastered version of A New Hope and the ridiculous explosion that is the Death Star. And then not that many years later, it's like he was like, Dad, how is there even a little bit left of the Death Star to rebuild it? Like, there's nothing there. It's just, I was like, I never thought of that before. Like, it really blows up. Like, there's nothing left. And then lo and behold, on Endor, it's like, you know, uh, looks like it's just needs to go in the repair shop for a while. I don't know.
It's it's a totally different ship.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's way bigger.
Oh,
Oh,
The second Death Star is,
the second
way
Death Star
bigger.
is brand new. It's bigger.
I didn't
But
know this.
but even then, they blew it up the same way.
Yeah.
But
So,
not really. They
No,
flew their whole ship
they flew it
inside
in
it,
there.
well, okay.
not
How
just in
many
a little.
independent contractors died? Because, no.
So totally different Death Star.
It's a total.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, it is. If you see like Google Death Star 1, Death Star 2, and they show them side by side, the second one's bigger.
and there's just teaching science. There was these cool animations that people would put together on YouTube, and I'd show them in my class, and it would be like stars. They'd start off with like the moon, and then Earth, and our sun, and then K2, and not K2, that's a mountain. Like Sirius and whatever. But there's people who do that with like either just Star Wars ships or sci-fi ships. And like it
Okay.
starts starts with like R2D2 and then an X-wing and then a TIE fighter and then all the different stages of destroyers, and then the Death Star and then the second Death Star and then the Death Planet from um, episode whatever.
Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starkiller Base or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel really I'm gonna hang up my Imperial Gunner costume and I feel ashamed to put that on again, not knowing that fact.
Wait, I mean, this recording will go to the 501. So,
First, it's
We
not
can
the
edit that
That's
last
right.
501.
part out.
So and I just shared a picture in the chat just to show you this is like the condensed. We kind of talked about this on the original run. This is like the condensed um upcoming projects list. And the person who did it, you can see there's like check marks on the things that are already done. And there's circles
Are
around
there
things that are confirmed.
and this is like things that you believe are still in because the
Yeah, so this was after Celebration.
okay,
So
because
these
they
were the
were like
things.
talking about trying to, I thought, cut some of these down, and maybe they did
I
cut
think
some
they
down. Maybe
did.
they're
I actually thought Rogue Squadron was totally dead, but they did mention it. Ninth Jedi, that's new. It's a Visions thing, though. Have you guys ever seen the Visions stuff?
yeah,
Hmm.
So it's
I think those are good.
yeah, they're a little bit like out there, right? Like they're not because there's a Visions season 3. We already know Ahsoka season 2 is happening. I don't think we're gonna see the Lando movie. I just have this feeling.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna see any of that row.
Star Wars Starfighter, Lando, or Dawn of the Jedi is
Hmm.
for our audio only listeners.
Oh yeah,
Maul. I mean, I know it's not circled, but I think that one's
Yeah,
a
I think that's
definitive one
pretty.
too.
that's gonna be animated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donald Glover was talking a lot about the Lando series for a long time, and there's like zilch on it now. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't even mention it. So
The droid,
And
somebody talked about droids the last time we recorded. I can't
uh,
remember.
think it was
Maybe those.
Brad talking about how it was an unwatchable cartoon.
Oh, I love
No,
it.
about the new one. Oh, it was Tim. I think it was Tim was talking about how he had heard there was a droid thing coming out, the droid story.
Yeah, I think that was like a really early on thing that just got dropped.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
who knows? You know, who knows? They could
Right.
resurrect the stuff at any point and be like, you know, we got some cred again from Andor. Let's revisit the stuff. Who knows?
When you're talking about the Lando thing and, Glover talking about it, wanting to do it, same thing with him being Miles Morales. Um, but it could be like a Obi-Wan thing where he knew it was happening and he couldn't talk about it, or,
Yeah.
It's true.
everybody was
Yeah.
like, it'd be really cool if you didn't mention this on Jimmy Kimmel.
Well,
Yeah.
and yeah, and there's a good question too. If it's not a movie, do you give it the Obi-Wan treatment? Do you give him 6 episodes and make a little series out of it? I don't know what story they would tell, but
Right now with Lando, with Donald Glover, I think they'll do whatever he wants to do. I
yeah,
would anyway. I
yeah.
mean,
He was
you
great. You want to talk about perfect casting? Like he
Hmm.
was say what you will about Solo. Was it Tim the one that liked Solo?
I do
Somebody
a lot.
Aaron
you liked so
Aaron loves it.
yeah,
Tim
okay,
Tim
yeah.
does not like Solo. He
That's
he
right.
he downplayed that as much as he could when he was on.
But like, dude, absolutely perfect casting for people can bitch about Harrison Ford being recast. I don't know what else they were supposed to do, but like Donald
Right.
Glover nailed it. He was
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. Sure.
You do know, Aaron, that the idea for Miles Morales came because Donald Glover in a Spider-Man suit, right? Okay.
On Community.
Yeah.
He's wearing,
I've never seen
and then
Community, so I don't know, but I
and
I
then
know the story behind it.
the episode that he does that on Community is drawn into one of the TV sets behind Miles Morales in the animated movie.
Okay.
So you can see Community playing in the background with him in that scene.
But not to jump, but it's Marvel, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
We're
all
still in the
owned by this.
trademark.
It's all owned by the same overlords. All
Um,
right.
well, I don't know if we want to throw this out since it's up there. Um, I'm just, I'm not excited for Mandalorian and Grogu.
Really?
I don't.
So
If it
is
was just
it
Mandalorian, I do them separate. I don't know. I just,
you think because of the way the direction of the show went at the end, you're not looking forward to the movie?
I just don't care about Grogu. I'd rather
I hope
see, and you guys talked about it without like I'd rather see an all, and you kind of got it with the Mandalorian. And you guys talked about how it was like he was the Hulk or Gunsmoke, and every week he'd just
Mhm.
show up and solve a problem and move on.
Yep.
Um, I'd like to see one long story that's just all Cad Bane, Dengar, Bosk, you know,
Mm.
because
all
you,
all bounty hunters. He doesn't
you
Mandalorian doesn't even have to be in it. It could be Boba Fett or,
yeah.
Jango Fett.
And you know they're gonna lean so hard into the cutesy element with Grogu.
Yeah.
They just
Well,
can't not
that's
do it.
what, to be fair, I mean, that's kind of not that it doesn't stand on its own, but that kind of blew it up to start with. Is
It
Oh,
did.
before I had even watched an episode, it was spoiled for me. I heard the
oh,
words Baby Yoda before I ever watched an episode of The Mandalorian. So it was like,
Mhm.
that's what definitely.
it was all the merchandising.
Oh, we could talk about that too. But before that, Aaron, did you watch any of the Tales of the Underworld stuff yet?
No.
There's a really good Cad Bane. I think it's a couple episodes of when he like him from a child to adulthood. It's actually really neat. It's a
Yeah,
good story.
I mean, they could. I don't even really care what section of the timeline it's in. Just I think bounty hunters are sweet. So
Yeah, now that we know they can do the IG-88 justice from the
Yeah,
Mandalorian stuff, like,
yeah.
oh my God, give me one episode of like the IG-88 backstory, like just freaking awesome. That would be such cool sci-fi.
yeah, I mean, there's a series right there.
Hmm.
You know, pick 12 bounty hunters and you know, start them off together at, like a Mexican standoff on
Yep.
a bounty, and then you got each episode explaining how each guy got there, and then at the end, Boba Fett kills them all or something.
Yeah. I want to see Zuckuss. Zuckuss, the Star
Yeah,
Wars story. That's what I want. Bring it on.
So are we going to go and into the world of Spaceballs?
Oh
I
man,
think you have to.
you guys excited? I'm kind
I
of
am.
excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looks like they got Rick Moranis, Mel Brooks. Um, I can't remember the
Is it,
actor's name.
is it Bill
Bill
Pullman or
Pullman.
Bill Paxton?
Bill
One's
Pullman.
Bill
dead.
Pullman. One of them's dead, yeah.
Yep.
I saw for some reason, did I see oh my gosh, Olaf LeFou, uh what's his name?
You're doing cartoon voice actors.
Well, he's the voice of Olaf, he's the actor for LeFou. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. A Disney like superstar. He's in
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Why can I not remember his name? I have the internet in front of me. I'll just look it up. But anyway, he's been attached to it too, which I thought was weird.
I
Pullman's
also,
son's in it. They got
yeah,
Queen Vespa
Century.
too, right?
I believe so.
They better get that Mel Brooks footage in the can ASAP.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still doing good, but he's 98, like, come
Yeah.
on. That's cool though. It's awesome news.
I mean, he promised us the sequel many years ago.
Yeah,
It's
right after
true.
it was in
It was
the
in the credits.
tagline to search for more money.
Who's gonna be, is
And
the Olaf voice actor? Is he gonna, who's he
Josh
gonna play?
Gad. Josh Gad. I don't know. That's why I thought that was weird that he was attached to it. So I'm gonna
He
look it
might
up right
take
now.
over for
Oh, for
John Candy.
Candy? Yeah, he
Yeah.
could. That's tough. I don't know what. I almost feel
Right.
like they should not do that.
CGI him.
Or just make like a total Mel Brooks joke about why he's not there and just leave it at that.
Yeah, with this hype coming back up, there's all kinds of different interviews and, little tidbits about the original. And I like the one, and I had heard it before, where they originally had John Candy in a full animatronic mask. And Mel Brooks just kept having him weed it back. He's like, if we're gonna cover his face, why the hell are we paying John Candy?
Hmm.
Just to get anybody to do it. So they ended up with a eye patch and a nose and some animatronic ears, and that was it. But yeah, they kept wanting to put stuff on his face, and Mel Brooks kept shutting it down.
Hmm.
It's awesome.
The best thing about the announcement is how many clips are coming out on reels of Spaceballs.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
right.
When are they shooting to have that out? Did they announce or did they put a date to it?
I haven't heard. I just know that they announced the movie and Mel Brooks at 98's like, I'm back.
Yep. I love all the stuff, and I love Ghostbusters too, but I love all the stuff when people are like looking at Rick Moranis coming back for that, and not any of the Ghostbusters movies have been
Looks like 2027, which I believe
okay.
is 40 years with Spaceballs 87. Yeah, so it's 40. I don't know if they're waiting for 40.
Holy,
They're gonna
So it'd
do
be
a 40
100.
year. Well, like you said though, they're gonna have to film
Yeah.
Yeah.
all
right.
his stuff as soon as possible. I mean, 2027 for release.
He's going to
That
be in front of a green screen the whole time. Just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
just say merchandising
just
a lot,
yeah,
Mel.
yeah.
Well, Brian, you asked some seriously good questions today.
Thank you.
I feel stumped. I feel like my brain is working far too much for this late in the day. But that's a good thing.
I feel like in 2 weeks, I'm going to get a text going, you know what? I've thought about that and we need to record again.
Yeah, I don't know if any of my answers at least were factual or correct, but I was certainly trying to field your questions. So thanks for having me on to do just that.
I'm just glad you guys were here. I feel better. I feel I made some valid points though on the whole Dooku not knowing Palpatine, although all three of you were against the idea, but and
I can see where I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I get the vision. I get the thought process.
I don't think I swayed anybody onto my side of it, but You guys did help with Cypher so I appreciate that. That's not going to bug me anymore.
It probably still bugs you a
I
little.
Well,
I love that.
I
How
don't want to let
confident
it.
are you, Matt? How confident are you about the typo thing? Like 100%? Like
I'm not 100%, but that seems to be a pretty commonly shown
that's
message
hilarious.
on the interwebs. And George Lucas just ran with it. Give him credit a little bit. I know people like to crap on George Lucas a little bit sometimes, but like, oh, it was a typo on the thing. Yeah, well, sure, let's run with it. Let's create a backstory. Let's give him a background. Let's give him a reason. Like that's cool. I can dig that. Like,
Well,
Right.
from the very start, the whole R2D2 thing, you guys know that story with
I don't know.
how so they're like hashing out stuff and like they're coming up with names for characters. He's like, he glances down, something to this effect, not exactly, but there was literally a bunch of like audio reels in this office where they were like talking about stuff, and one of them was like R2D. It was like real to something to like the D stood for something, but it was like their categorization system. And he was like, how about R? He looks over R2D2, and like that's it. That's all it was. It was just like a freaking tape case laying in his office, and he's like, "That's good enough. Let's move on." You know, there's something to be said for that, though. Like, don't focus on the
I'm just,
stuff that's not important. You know,
I'm just gonna throw it out there again. Savage Opress.
way overthought.
Oh, all right.
But what a bad character, though. I
I know
Yeah.
mean,
he was. He was.
it was a waste.
What's a
I
better
think
name?
he could have
No,
been
not
like,
that. Not that. I just the
That's
he
what you
character
could have
that
mean.
been,
Yeah, the
gets killed
character.
by the Emperor, and you know, it's like he could have been around a lot longer, and
he could
depending
have
on
been
when they
evil
do,
McSithy.
yeah,
You
that's.
know,
But
Sith boat makes Sith
hopefully,
face.
whatever time they use the mall, hopefully Savage makes an appearance in the mall series coming up.
that would be cool.
Maybe. All right. You guys are good.
Thank you.
Everybody's good.
Oh, I thought you said we are good.
I said if you guys are all good,
Oh.
I'll close this out. This has been a BTB short state of Star Wars. We've had a lot of fun. Hopefully, you guys have had too. We just a reminder we are part of the SPDM Podcast Network, and you can check out the main cast BTB Movie Club along with a lot of other great podcasts there wherever you listen and download. That's it for us.
Maybe.
Last time we said this was the end, and maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. Hopefully to see you again. Take care. May the force be with you.
The Force hates the Qui-Gon Cypher idea.
Not as much as me.